I just want to preface this video by saying that my goal was to have something that you could play while you were doing your own meal prep for the week, a little bit of body doubling. I personally find that helpful, so I wanted to make this video. And just so you know, it's not going to be my most cinematic or aesthetic video. A lot of the shots are going to go on for quite a while so that you can do it along with me. So if you're just looking for like chill vibes and something cute to watch, this probably isn't the thing for you because it's going to be pretty long. But if you want somebody to cook with so that you don't have to do it all by yourself, this is for you. Cooking is not one of my favorite activities. I don't really enjoy it, but I find getting all of my dinners prepped in one go on the weekend just so helpful. You know, when I'm coming home from work and from a class or from training in the evenings on the weekdays, the last thing I want to do is decide what to make for dinner and then make it. Like, I don't have the energy or the capacity for it at that point. So by doing it all ahead of time, I just come home and it's already in the fridge and it's good to go. We're gonna front load the work, but we're also gonna move it to a time when you are better equipped to do something like cooking. It could be a weekend morning, you could pick one afternoon on a weekday, whatever would work for you. The only requirement is that it's a time when you are relatively well rested and therefore have more energy to cook. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do this together. We're gonna put on some nice relaxing music, we're gonna chat a bit, and we're just gonna have a nice chill hang where we also accomplish something that's good for us. I'm gonna try and keep edits to a minimum so that you can follow along mostly in real time. There's some stuff where I'm gonna go through it a little bit quicker, such as going to the grocery store, because I don't know how much they're gonna like me filming in the store, so I'm gonna be trying to do that real discreetly. So we're just gonna speed through that part. But everything else, like the actual cooking and preparation, we're gonna do together. So to start, we're gonna plan out what we're gonna eat for the week. We're gonna make a grocery list. We're gonna go get those groceries. And then we're gonna put everything together. We're gonna get as much as we can prepared ahead of time so that during the week, it will take you 10 minutes max to have dinner on the table. You don't even have to come up with your own meal plan. You can just follow mine. I'm giving it away for free. And if you're like, but Lisa, I don't have any equipment. Neither do I. I live nomadically and this condo came with the barest minimum of cooking equipment. All you're gonna need is one pan and 2 pots. And if you only have 1 pot, that's okay. You can still make this work just with some small adjustments. I'm also going to use a strainer and a rice cooker, but both of those are just for convenience and completely optional. If you don't have them, you can still make all of these meals, no big deal. Okay, let's get started. Step 1 is planning your meals for the week. I'm quite lazy when it comes to cooking and I don't care about variety that much. So I pick 3 things that will make 2 meals each. That keeps me fed for 6 days of the week. I like to leave Saturday night as like a wild card meal where I don't decide what we're gonna eat ahead of time. And then that gives us the option to get some takeout, maybe go to a restaurant, or even just get something spontaneous from the grocery store. You gotta have a little bit of fun once in a while. And some weeks I move that day around. It's not always Saturday. You know, some weeks we feel like going out more on the Friday, or our friends want to meet up on Sunday evening. So, you know, flexibility is good. The goal is to have 6 meals prepared ahead of time. That's the number that works for me. You might need to adapt this to your lifestyle. You might be like, I need to know all 7 meals ahead of time. Or you might be like, I want to have 4 meals planned and then leave 3 up to spontaneity. Whatever the number is that works for you is fine. Just adapt to your needs. My needs are 6 meals a week, so that's what I do. And you might be thinking, well, what about breakfast and lunch? So I eat the same thing
Breakfast
pretty much every day with the exception of one weekend day. I make something slightly different, but I always make it in the morning and it's something quick that only takes me about 10 minutes to prepare. For lunch, I have a sandwich with some chopped veggies every day again. I do this because I like to take my lunch outside to eat at the park nearby, and sandwiches are convenient and very portable. However, I do have a schedule of sandwiches, so each day of the week, I always eat the same sandwich. So I find it's enough variety that I don't get super bored. Plus, I don't want to have to think of that many new things every week for food. For me, just planning dinners is pretty much the max of my decision-making capability when it comes to that. So, what are we having for dinner this week? Meal number 1 is salmon with rice and broccoli. Meal number 2 is spaghetti with a meat sauce. And meal number 3 is a Thai green curry served over rice. Obviously, I am not a vegetarian or a vegan, so if you are, you're going to need to adjust the meal plan a little bit to suit your lifestyle. It's really easy to make the spaghetti and the Thai green curry meat-free. And for the salmon meal, you could replace the salmon with tempeh, maybe some marinated chickpeas, some kind of plant-based protein. Now that I have my meals planned, I'm gonna write them out on Post-it notes and put them on my schedule on the fridge. This is so that my partner knows what we're having for dinner without having to ask me, and mostly for myself so that I remember what to take out of the freezer.
If you've already got your meal plan and just want company for cooking, you can go ahead and skip to the cooking starts timestamp, which will be in the description below.
All right, next step is making the grocery list, so let's do that.
I use an app called Cozy, C-O-Z-I, to manage my grocery list. As a quick note, I will put the full ingredient list as well as the basic steps for each meal I'm making in the video description, so you don't need to try and make out what I'm typing in here. I probably also didn't pick up every single thing that's required for these meals as well, because some of it I would have already had at home. Anyways, back to Cozy. It is a free app, and I like it for 2 reasons. Number 1, it allows me to sync my grocery list between my phone and my partner's phone. You create a free account, and then you can share your list with members of your household. It's possible that on the free plan, you might be limited on how many people you can share with, but it's just me and my partner, so it works for us. Then, if one of us adds something to the grocery list, it will also add it to the list on the other person's phone. So I just find this so handy because if I'm out, I can check and see if he's added anything to the list that I can pick up and vice versa. The second thing that I really like about this app is that you can reorder the items after they've been added to the list. My usual method of making a grocery list for meal prepping is to just go through each meal and add whatever I don't already have at home. Then, once I have all the items added to the list, I like to put them in order of where I will find them in the store. So, the items that are near the front entrance of the store go at the top of the list, and then I go aisle by aisle. I just find that by doing it this way, I don't get further into the store and then realize that I have to go back for something that I missed. Basically, anything I can do to get through meal prepping a little more quickly is a win in my book, so that's what I do.
Grocery store. I'm gonna put the groceries away now, and I'm gonna leave the camera running while I do that so that if you want to do it with me, you can as well. If not, if you've already done that part, I will put a timestamp so you can jump ahead. Ooh, and then I'm gonna make some more coffee because I would like some more coffee.
I realized later on when I was editing that I didn't make this very clear when I was filming, but this is 6 meals of 2 portions each since I prep meals for both myself and my partner. So if you're cooking for more or less people, then you can just adjust the portion sizes to whatever will suit you. I'm afraid I don't have any great tips on how to organize the kitchen in a way that's really efficient, other than just don't have that much stuff, because that's what I do. So I find it's easy for me when I'm going through my pantry and my refrigerator to figure out what I want to make for the week and figure out my meal plan. I can just see everything that I currently have at a glance, so that's my best suggestion. Obviously, if you have a big family or you've got kids, this will be a lot harder. But for me and my partner's little family of just the 2 of us, it's very easy to do. It's very easy to keep on top of what I have. So, yeah, I'm sure there's other, YouTubers out there that have amazing tips on how to organize like a well-stocked pantry. But I also just question if you need that, I'm very much at this point just buying what I need because, I'm going to move on in a couple of months, so I can't have big stockpiles of food. So, anyway. I do really love these grocery bags. I got these at the Daiso last year. I know, I talk about the Daiso so much. I swear I'm not affiliated with them. I just really like the store. And they closed the one in Vancouver, which is so sad. The one that's downtown anyways. The one in Richmond's possibly still there, but Richmond's pretty far from where I am. Anyways, I love these grocery bags. They fold up really small and are super lightweight, so I can just tuck them into my backpack and fantastic. And we travel with them everywhere. We take them when we go overseas. I just love them.
So I'm making half calf coffee, so it's half decaf and half Verona because I really like to have coffee, but I can't drink that much because I get the really anxious, heart palpitations feeling. So I find I'm gonna make half calf and then I can have lots of coffee and no problems. One other quick thing that I forgot to film was that I did a very quick tidy before I got started. I just cleared off my counters, made sure stuff was out of the way, gave them a wipe down so that I have a nice clean surface to work on. I find that helpful, so sorry I didn't film it. If you need to, take a moment right now, pause the video, set your timer for 2 minutes, just do a real quick tidy and wipe down, and then we'll get back to it. Okay, so coffee is brewing. You can probably hear that in the background. While that's going, I'm gonna get started on chopping veggies because I have quite a few that I need to do. I've got carrots and red pepper for the Thai curry, which I'm gonna make first because it's the most labor intensive one. And then I've got to do some broccoli as well as some mushrooms for the spaghetti sauce. So I'm gonna get all that chopped first, just for food safety reasons, and then I'll set aside some of those veggies while I'm preparing the other meals. That way I'm not going back and forth between chopping veggies and meat. It is a wooden cutting board, so not a great plan. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start by chopping my veggies while my coffee's brewing, and I'm gonna start cooking. I forgot one small thing. I'm also going to put a pot of water on to boil. I find it easiest when I make the Thai curry to cook the carrots separately and soften them up by just popping them in some boiling water for a few minutes. Otherwise, they don't really soften up properly and they're really crunchy, which, I don't mind some crunch, but it's a little too much crunch. I prefer them to be softer. So we're gonna do that as well while we're chopping the veggies. while the coffee is going, while the water's boiling, we'll chop veggies. It's all about trying to be as efficient as possible. This pot doesn't actually have a lid that fits, so I just use this one. Some Airbnbs are better equipped than others.
I already have rice prepped, but if you don't and want to make it ahead of time, you can go ahead and put it on now. If you're using a rice cooker, it can run in the background while you're doing other things. If you're making it on the stovetop, then you could still start it now, but just make sure to keep an eye on it and give it a stir every once in a while. Cleaning up boiled over rice isn't the end of the world, but it's kind of inconvenient, so let's try to avoid that situation.
Now you might be wondering, why baby carrots instead of a regular carrot? You can absolutely use regular carrots. I just also put these in our lunches for work, so I just have them on hand already. So these are what I'm using, but you don't have to. You can use a regular carrot. It's totally fine.
And look, I'm no master chef, so I'm just kind of rough chopping these. I don't have that fancy like one-handed chopping technique that I've seen people do. I mean, I'm living in an Airbnb right now and this knife is barely sharpened, so I'm just doing my best with what I got and the skills that I have, and that's fine. It's good enough. It gets the job done. There are health benefits to preparing your rice ahead of time, as well as just being convenient. Rice that has been cooled for at least 8 hours after cooking has only half the glycemic impact as fresh rice, so you don't get those big blood sugar spikes and drops that leave you really dragging. I'm just going to set these aside for now because I don't have the water boiling quite yet and I want to move on to chopping my bell pepper. So I'm just going to put these to the side and get them out of the way, and off we go. When I was living in Australia earlier this year, I found out that they don't call it red bell pepper, they call it capsicum. I don't know why, but obviously I could see that it was a red bell pepper, but I just thought that was interesting. I was like, why did they end up with capsicum and we didn't? So if anybody knows, let me know in the comments, because I'd be really interested to hear how that came about. I don't know. I'm kind of a language nerd, so I always like to hear how language has evolved. Like, that's always really interesting to me. And yeah, I have no idea how we got into the capsicum red bell pepper divide. I'm pretty sure, like, I'm from Canada and everyone calls it red bell pepper here. And I'm pretty sure that's the same across all of the United States as well, too. So anyways, if you know why, enlighten me.
Water for the carrots is boiling now, so I'm going to go ahead and pop those in, and then I'll keep chopping veggies. And remember, if at any point I'm going quicker than you are and you need to pause the video and finish up what you're doing before you move on to the next thing, go ahead. Keep in mind, I've gone through this a few times. It's not my first rodeo, let's say that. So I might go faster than you, that's okay. So no worries, go at your own pace, pause, come back when you're ready to move on to the next step. Coffee is also ready, so I'm going to make myself a cup of that. All right, I'm gonna put this to the side, let it cool down a bit, and then I'm going to keep chopping my veggies. I'm gonna do the mushrooms and then the carrots. And then I'm done with chopping veggies, and I can move on to starting the curry sauce.
I'm gonna be honest, I probably should have chopped these mushrooms a little bit smaller. These were quite large mushrooms, which I didn't really realize when I bought them, but I probably would have cut them in half. Just, they came out quite large in the sauce, which is fine. I mean, that's the great thing about cooking versus baking, and why I don't bake, is that you really do not have to be super precise with things. Generally, you can kind of freestyle quite a bit, and things will still come out okay and they will still taste okay. But yeah, I think I would probably chop these in half. So if you're watching in the future and you also have some large mushrooms, might I suggest chopping them in half? Okay, and then last thing here is to cut up the broccoli that's gonna go with the salmon. I'm not gonna cut up 100% of it because I do like to save some for taking in my lunches during the week. I like to have a little bit of veggies along with my sandwiches. So, and again, no real system here, just kind of chopping as I feel like. Doesn't need to be perfect. There's no specific size or shape that they need to be. Just whatever looks good to you. And again, we're gonna set these aside for later because we're not gonna cook them right away. So I ran out of bowls. I don't have a lot of bowls in this Airbnb either, so I'm using a Tupperware container. It's fine. It's a container. It holds them. We adapt. We use what we have. Everything's good. And then just a little tidy of the knife and the cutting board, just so that it's ready to go for the meat. And we're ready to move on.
I ended up buying a bulk pack of chicken at the store today because it was a really good price. So I'm gonna portion that out and then put some of it away in the freezer because I don't need that much for what I'm cooking today.
So once again, no specific way. I'm just dicing the chicken up into little cubes here, mainly so that it cooks faster and it's easier to cook it. This is going into the Thai curry, so yeah, I also wanted, diced up into little portions for that, for serving, and yeah, so However you want to cut the chicken is fine. You could cut it into like strips. You don't have to do cubes, whatever you want. I mean, I probably wouldn't leave it as one giant chicken breast, but other than that, do what you feel like. If you're new to my channel or just watch my productivity blogs, you might not know that I actually live nomadically. I am in one place for a maximum of 6 months, but usually more like 1 to 3 months, and then I move on. So I can't really have a big pantry full of food because I just never get through most of it. I started to adopt a habit of only buying small amounts of things, and then that kind of naturally led into meal prepping. I typically look at what I have in the fridge and cupboard and see what needs to be used up, and then that forms the base of my meal plan for the week. I just find for stuff that goes bad, like dairy or fruits and vegetables, you're just better off purchasing in small quantities since they just don't last that long. Even though the bigger tub of sour cream might be only $1 more, before you buy it, ask yourself if you're really going to go through it before it will go bad. We're just gonna give our hands a good wash now since we've been touching raw chicken. If you're one of those people who hates touching raw chicken, like, I get it. I don't love it either, but I do like to eat chicken, so I push through. But if you're preparing this vegetarian style, then you don't have to do that at all, which would be lovely. I actually do like vegetarian Thai curries, but I usually put in chickpeas as a protein, and my partner's tummy has a little bit of trouble with the chickpeas, so we do the chicken for him.
Okay, so I'm going to cook the chicken now. Pretty simple, just salt, pepper, a little bit of garlic and onion powder. And that's all I'm going to season it with, because then it's going to go into the curry sauce. So that'll have plenty of flavor as it is. A little bit of olive oil.
seasoning is really key for having good tasting food. Like, I always used to think that all the food that I made tasted so bad, but it just wasn't seasoned enough, actually. I really wasn't adding enough salt or anything else. And once I started doing that, it started tasting a whole lot better. So I use salt pretty liberally. Basically, everything I make gets salt and pepper on it. And then I pretty much always add garlic powder and onion powder to it as well. It depends on what I'm making, but I just find that, those 4 things as seasoning on meat is generally all you need and tastes pretty good. Sometimes you might want to add something else, something extra, depending on what you're making. I can't really think of an example off the top of my head, but, if there's something you're making and you're like, I know I love that seasoning on it, like, absolutely go nuts. Oh, I guess something is when I'm making like Mexican type of food, if I'm making like tacos or burrito bowls or something like that, then I actually buy, because I'm nomadic, I don't want to have like a giant thing of like chili powder and cumin and stuff like that, because I'm just not going to use all of it. So what I do instead is I just buy taco seasoning packets. They're pretty inexpensive. I mean, not as cheap as buying this seasoning in bulk, but I'm never going to get through that much of it in, a month to a couple of months. So for me, that's what works. But obviously, if you live somewhere permanently, you can buy, the spices and mix up your own taco seasoning. But yeah, I find just if you feel like your food generally doesn't taste good, I would just encourage you to up your seasoning game, and it'll probably taste a whole lot better. While the chicken finishes cooking, I'm gonna wipe down my cutting board so that it's ready for the next thing. And then we can start on the actual curry sauce. Which is gonna require opening 4 cans. Nope, only 3. A lot of can opening though. So I guess that's another thing that you're gonna need is actually a can opener. Unless you can get those cans that are self-opening. I'll be honest though, I just got my can opener at the dollar store and it is surprisingly quality for a dollar store can opener. generally, just to make sure that the chicken is fully cooked all the way through, I'll pick a couple of really thick ones and then just chop them in half and make sure there's no pink on the inside. And then as long as the thick boys are good, then the rest of them should be good too. I was so sad. I meant to buy regular coconut milk and I accidentally bought the light stuff, which is like, it's better for me, but I am generally a person who always goes for the full fat versions of things. I don't know, I just find it tastes better, and also with a lot of like low fat options, particularly in dairy, not necessarily coconut milk. I don't actually know, never looked into it, but they add a lot of sugar, and I don't know, I don't do that great with sugar, so I find I feel like full for longer or more satisfied when I just use the full fat versions of things, particularly dairy. So yeah, that's my usual. This week I accidentally grabbed the light one. Very sad, but you know what? The curry still tasted okay. I'm recording this voiceover in the future after I've already eaten the curry, and it was fine. It was totally fine.
I'm going to start the bell peppers cooking for the curry sauce while I open the other cans.
I mentioned it already, but really the biggest benefit to prepping your food ahead of time is that you don't have to make a decision about what to eat, possibly go get the required ingredients, and then do the work of cooking when you're already tired and hungry. You're just not going to do it at that point. It's way too much to expect from yourself when you're both low energy and low blood sugar. Instead, you're going to do something like eat 2 handfuls of shredded Monterey Jack with a bag of microwave popcorn, or maybe half a tub of spinach dip with the leftovers of a very stale but not yet moldy baguette. And the problem with those meals, quote unquote, is that they don't really give your body a lot of nutritional value or fuel. So the next day you're going to start off with even less energy. How do you think you're going to feel when dinner time rolls around again? Do you think you're going to want to prep a healthy and nutritious meal? No, you're going to want to eat whatever is easy to grab again. And if you're thinking, those were oddly specific examples, no, those were definitely random and definitely not things that I have 100% eaten for dinner in the past. The point is, if you've been struggling with focus, brain fog, or just not feeling good, what you're eating is a good starting point for trying to improve that, because it's very much tied to your energy levels and how your body functions. By no means do I have a perfect diet. I eat pre-made sauces that probably have a fair amount of sugar in them. If there are free treats at the office, I will definitely eat one. And I put way too much cream in multiple coffees per day because I want to live, damn it. But I do try to make sure that for the most part, I'm eating in a way that keeps my energy high enough to accomplish all of my goals and just things that I need to get done every day. I think that when you feel like you have to do things perfectly, it makes it way too easy to give up if there are any slip-ups. And let's be real, there will always be slip-ups. Sometimes I forget to bring something with me to work, or I don't take something out of the freezer. But if you're aiming for good enough rather than perfect, it doesn't really matter. You make a mistake, you just correct course when you can and carry on. So even though you got off track for a bit, you still end up making way more progress than if you just stopped.
Gonna do that. This is fine. That simmer for a bit now, and I should do a little taste test to make sure it's not too spicy. If it is, you can always add cream. So while that curry is simmering, I'm gonna do a little bit of cleanup, and then I'm gonna move on to making the spaghetti sauce, which is relatively easy. I just need to brown the chicken meat, soften up the mushrooms a little bit, and then add the tomato sauce, and that's it. I'm actually going to not make my noodles today. Like with the rice, I cook my noodles the night before, and I'm not gonna eat these meals for a little while. Also, noodles are super quick to cook on the day of. If you don't want to do the night before preparation, no problem. For today, just gotta make the sauce. Easy.
So just as a reminder, I'm making 2 meals of 2 portions each here. So technically it's 4 meals in total, but it's enough in each container that can feed me and my partner for 1 meal, if that makes more sense saying it that way. So you might need to store yours differently. If you're making this into 4 meals for just yourself, then you would portion it out into 4 different containers. But yeah, this is for 2 people, so I'm doing 2.
Okay, I'm gonna let the curry cool off for a little bit before I put the lids on it. But next thing up is I'm going to make the spaghetti sauce. So I'm gonna use the same pan that I used. I'm not actually gonna clean that out because I just had the chicken plus seasonings in it, which I'm gonna use the same ones for the spaghetti sauce anyways. And then I am gonna clean out my big pot here because I'm gonna use that to mix everything together. I'm gonna do the mushrooms in there, and I'm gonna put in the meat as well as the tomato sauce. So I'm gonna clean one pot, and then we're gonna flip it back around. Actually, I think I'll get the chicken started first. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start the chicken first, then I'll clean the pot while that's cooking, then I'll get the mushrooms going. Trying to have one thing on the go and start another one. If that's like a lot for you, like no worries, you don't have to do it that way. I'm just always coming at this with the goal of how do I get through this as quickly as possible?
And again, seasoning is really key. Like, so don't be afraid. I mean, like, yes, you can go overboard with the salt, and I have in the past, but, you know, add a good amount of seasoning to your meats. And I find that that just really brings out the flavor of the dish. Like, I used to hate anything made with ground chicken or ground turkey. I was like, it's disgusting. It tastes like I'm eating a tire. Like, who would even eat this? And really what it was just, I don't like bland ground turkey or ground chicken. Like, that does not taste good. And once I started seasoning it properly, then I loved it. And it is like a healthier option for your meat, for like something like spaghetti sauce versus like pork or beef. It's just lower in calorie, lower in saturated fat. So I'm glad that I figured that out, because spaghetti is my partner's favorite meal, and he wants to eat it pretty much every week.
of doing the chicken actually took up my full attention. So I'm gonna clean the pot now, and then we will make our sauce.
Yeah, I definitely could have made those mushrooms a little smaller. Or I could have purchased smaller mushrooms in the first place. But you know what? It was fine. The sauce still worked out. It still tasted good. Matt still got to eat his favorite food in the world. So, you know, not that big of a deal. Remember, we're going for good enough, not perfect. Good enough will still get you very far. Going for perfect gets you nowhere.
The mushrooms are gonna need a little while, so I thought I would take this opportunity to talk about what's next. So once the spaghetti sauce is done, which it's pretty much just waiting on the mushrooms at this point, and then I can add in my chicken and my sauce, mix it all up, That's all it needs. And then I'm gonna move on to the salmon. I'm just gonna like quick boil some broccoli, just soften it up a bit. And then I'm gonna pan fry the salmon with some sauce. I ended up buying a teriyaki sauce for it at the store, which I haven't tried before, but hopefully it's good. Usually teriyaki tastes pretty good on salmon, so that's it. Then we are done.
Okay, so I don't know if this is just a me thing or if other people do this, but I like to get all the goodness out of the sauce jar. So once I've kind of scraped out as much as I can, then I add a little bit of water. Don't add too much, just a little bit, and shake it up, and then get whatever else I can out. So I don't know if that's weird or not, but that's what I do. You guessed it, again, this is 2 meals of 2 portions each. So each container has enough for me and Matt to have for 1 meal.
home stretch. I'm gonna clean out this big pot that I made the spaghetti sauce in. I'm gonna put my broccoli, well, I'm gonna boil it first, then I'm gonna put my broccoli in it. And then I'm gonna use the pan that I used for the chicken to cook my salmon. And that's it. Then we're done. Then we have all of our dinners for this week done, handled. You don't have to worry about it, aside from maybe making a little bit of pasta or heating up some rice. Other than that, we're good. So, very exciting. Let's finish it.
This was actually like a really nice piece of fish. You can see it has that nice bright red color versus the farm salmon, which tends to be kind of pink. This stuff was wild. I definitely did splurge on that. It is more expensive to buy the wild stuff. So if you're not in a position to currently be able to do that, don't worry about it. You're not a bad person. You're just doing what you can, and that's totally fine. I mean, I do tend to prioritize, if I can, buying the healthier groceries, just because I think health is probably the most important thing in our lives. Like, if you don't have good health, you're not going to have much else. So, you know, I do spend the money if I can to get the healthier foods. But if you're not in that place right now, like, that's not a moral failing on your part. Okay. So anyways, I'm never going to be one of those people who's like, if you don't eat organic, you're a monster. Like, no, that's ridiculous. actually ended up being pretty good. I was pleasantly surprised. I hadn't tried it before, and it didn't have like a super strong, overpowering flavor, which I actually think was a good thing because, like I said, this was actually like a really nice piece of fish. So we got that nice salmon flavor, which was great, and then the teriyaki sauce just like complemented it nicely. And I didn't put too much on there. I didn't like absolutely drown it in sauce. So just a little bit went a long way. I will put the brand that it was in the description, like with the ingredient list, so you can try and find the same one. Again, I'm in Canada, so if you're elsewhere in the world, I don't know if you'll have the exact same version available, but I think any kind of teriyaki sauce should work. I just find it goes nicely on salmon, so yeah.
We're gonna store this in a bit of a different way than I do like the curry sauce or the spaghetti. What I'm gonna do is, rather than separating it into its two separate meals, I'm gonna put all of the salmon in one container with a little bit of its sauce, and then I'm also gonna put all of the broccoli in another container. Just because when I reheat these, I don't typically do it at the same time. When I wanna reheat my salmon, I'll just put it back on the pan for a couple minutes to heat it up that way. I find that makes it taste the best, plus then you don't have to microwave fish, so your place smells like fish the whole night. And broccoli, I find, again, I just cooked it lightly so that when I want to make it, again, I just boil some water really quick, pop it in there for like a minute or two, that's it, and then strain it. And I'm also going to put this over some rice, so it'll be salmon, broccoli, and rice for this meal. So yeah, that's how I'm going to store these. A little bit different than the other ones, but it works for me. I find it easy. Hopefully you do too. Okay, so I'm just gonna let those cool off for a minute before I put the lids on. The other ones are nice and cool and have their lids on, so I'm gonna go ahead and put those in the freezer. The salmon I'm eating right away, so I'm not gonna freeze that. And then the last thing to do really is to just tidy this all up. So I'm gonna get as much as I can into the dishwasher, get that running. I will wash everything else that I need to by hand, and then we're all done. Matt and I still need to do our cleaning for today. I still need to do laundry. That's fine. Normally I would have laundry running in the background while I'm doing my meal prep, but I didn't want the noise from the washer and the dryer to interfere with filming, so I didn't do that today, but normally that's what I would do. I pretty much most of the time get all of my chores done on Sunday. That's when I like to do my weekly reset. Sometimes I'll spread it out a bit over Saturday and Sunday, but it always gets done on the weekend. I'm very busy during the weekdays. I have a lot of things I like to do in the evenings on weekdays, and I usually have a very full work day, so that's the only time I have to do it. But I hope this was helpful, and if you have any questions, I mean, obviously I am not a professional chef. None of these dishes are particularly aesthetic, but they do taste good and they keep me fueled. So that's really the main thing. Like, I don't really care so much what my food looks like. I just care that it tastes good and that I'm not hungry after I eat it. So all of these meals accomplish that, so good enough for me. It's what is manageable for me as well as provides a good enough result that I'm happy with it. The only thing that you do need to sort of keep on top of is to remember to take your things out of the freezer. So I generally take things out of the freezer 2 days before I need them. It'll depend on your fridge and how fast it defrosts things. But for me, I find, especially something that's quite liquid or quite dense, like one of the curries or the spaghetti sauce, that's usually gonna need 2 full days to defrost in the fridge. If you forget, you just take it out the day before, it's fine. You can always put it on the counter for like 10 minutes before you heat it up. That should take care. That's the only caveat. You do need to remember to take things out of the freezer. But I find I can do that, and I have my schedule on the fridge, so I'm always checking that and seeing, okay, what do I need in 2 days from now, and make sure that's in the fridge. So you just build these little habits into your routine over time. Do I make mistakes? Yeah, sometimes, totally. But for the most part, it really keeps me on track, and then I get proper nutrition, and I don't get hangry, and I'm a better human being, I feel. So give it a try. Hopefully you were able to get some cooking done with me today, and yeah.
Well, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up here and do some cleaning. I left the camera rolling while I did that so you could do your cleanup with me if you want to. I'll put some nice music on to play us out. In a way, the cleanup is actually my favorite part because it means that I'm done and I don't need to do any more cooking until the next week. Hooray! Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing week with all of your prep meals. I'd love to hear how it went for you. Bye for now, and I'll see you next time.